Before we begin today's conversation, I want to tell you a little bit about the person you're about to meet. I met Chiara during a 10-day Vipassana meditation course in Mumbai. If you have ever done Vipassana, you will know that for 10 days, you're not supposed to talk, make eye contact, or interact with anyone. Yet somehow, when the course ended, it became very clear that we had found one of those rare connections that happen when like minded people cross paths. There's a saying that your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think there's truth in that. Sometimes you meet someone whose curiosity about life feels familiar, someone who asks different questions, chooses experience over certainty, and isn't afraid to step outside what is comfortable in order to discover who they really are. That is what stood out to me about Chiara. She's lived across continents, speaks multiple languages, has traveled extensively, and has repeatedly chosen growth over familiarity. Not because it was easy, but because she was willing to learn through experience. And that brings me to the purpose of this podcast. Architecture of Us is a space where we explore how human beings are shaped. Not by titles, achievements, or roles we play, but by the experiences we live through. The moments that challenge us, the places that stretch us, the people who leave an imprint on us, the choices that require courage. Because none of us arrive fully formed. We are all being shaped every day by the environment we step into, the risks we take, the questions we ask, and the stories we choose to rewrite. When we spend our life only following rules that others created for us, life can become predictable but often disconnected from who we truly are. But when we step beyond our comfort zone, when we become students of the world rather than passive observers, something changes. We begin to build a life that feels deeply our own, a life worth living. And today's conversation is exactly about that. So join me as I sit down with Chiara to explore the experiences, challenges, travels, and lessons that helped shape the person she is today. Chiara, how are you? I'm so thrilled to have you here today with me on this podcast.
Thank you very much for having me here, Swati. I'm doing very good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking time out today. I'm so curious to know about your story, about who are you. Please tell all our audience who you are. Who is Chiara?
So, Chiara has a lot of sides to her, I guess. I'm a person who took a lot of time to discover who I am, and I went out of my comfort zone to figure out who I am. And I feel like as time goes on, you find a different part of yourself throughout your life journey. It's not always the same person throughout time. There's always learnings, growth, different people around you, and environment as well changes you a lot. So, who is Chiara? I cannot put it in a few words, but she's a very happy person who's learning a lot of things and loves to always be in uncomfortable situations. And I think that's a way to say putting myself out there to learn.
And that is the base of what we are going to talk about today, because this podcast, Architecture of Us, focuses completely on how you became the person you became today. So I want to know more about your experiences, Chiara. Know for a fact that you traveled a lot. You've been to various different places and countries. So give us some background. Where are you from, and where all have your experiences been?
So, I was very lucky in my life. I grew up in a family that comes from different cultures. I was born in Italy, in Milan. And at the age of 2, I was already living in the United States. So I grew up in the United States in two different cultures. And on top of that, my grandmother, so my mom's mom, is born in Tunisia. So I was already between three different continents at the age of 2. So I learned a lot of things throughout my childhood because I was always around people from all over the world. And that sparked a curiosity because everyone's different, everyone's unique. And when you go to their culture and their country, you learn a lot about them too. So I think this really developed since I was a kid. And I love eating and I love food. So it's also a way to learn about different cultures. I lived 8 years in the United States. And at the age of 10, I moved back to Italy where I did my middle school and high school. After that, I went to the Netherlands. I lived in Amsterdam for 5 years and I did my bachelor's, then my master's degree there. I studied international business in my master's. Then I went 1 year to Brazil because if it's international business, we might as well explore a new market and a new country. So Brazil had an amazing time and learned a lot of things. I even learned Portuguese there. And after that year in Brazil, I said, okay, time to settle down. I think I was 24 back then, and then I was doing as everybody else does. At a certain point, you're just going to get a job and stabilize. That didn't go so well. So after Brazil, I moved to Germany and I decided to work corporate for a while. And I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So that was a moment for me where things kind of got a little dark and I had to figure out exactly what was going to happen next and where I was going to go. So then after that, I moved to Rome and I did a second master's in food and wine business. And that was really cool. Food and wine business along with international business. And then I decided I'm going to go to India because it's a market that's expanding. It's so cool. The food is amazing. The people are amazing. So I might as well go and see it for myself. And I moved to Mumbai for 3 months and had a wonderful time. And then I did the 10-day course meditation where I met Swati and now we're here.
Exactly. I was just about to say that we met on a Vipassana course and it was pretty amazing.
I feel like that actually did change a few things internally for myself that I still to this day apply. So I like the course at the end of the day for myself personally. There are some things that could be improved. I think
The
that could always
management
come
could
with
be
everything.
improved, but the
Yeah,
course itself was pretty amazing.
very nice. If you have the management part good, the course is amazing.
Absolutely. And not talking to anyone for 10 days, though it was a challenge for me, absolutely, but I loved it. It gave me that kind of peace that I really was looking forward to.
And I think it's the only moment where you get to really think of for yourself, just within yourself, only you. And I
Exactly.
feel like that was pretty nice. But yeah, not talking to people is not easy. Not even smiling to people.
I know that was the difficult part. And I kind of failed in it.
Me too.
That's okay. That's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question. So, how many languages do you speak? Because you just mentioned that you spoke Portuguese as well.
I can communicate pretty well in 5 languages. And then another 2 or 3 that I can kind of butcher around. Then I learned a few words in Hindi.
Which are the 5 languages that you are fluent in?
English, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese.
Wow. Which are the other 2 that you have, you can go around?
I spoke a bit of Dutch back when I was in the Netherlands. I think because they speak a lot of English there, it could have improved a lot, but it didn't because English was another option, which in Brazil I didn't have. I had to learn Portuguese or else there's nothing. It's just impossible to communicate. So yeah, I learned a bit of Dutch. I used to know Norwegian when I was younger. I have family in Norway as well. But now it's very bad. So I, again, like to be humble about it. And a bit of Arabic. Yeah. And then the few words of Hindi, which I love. I mean, I know like the fruits and then how to say how much something costs. And that makes me very happy. Anything to feel somewhat involved in the culture, I'm always excited to learn.
Learning so many languages is itself a skill. I would love to learn French. I'm really bad at it, honestly.
And French is not easy. The grammar is really hard.
Mhm.
And half the letters in the words, you don't even pronounce them. It's not like it makes it any easier.
Because in my first year in graduation, I took the subject as French. And then in my first class, I realized that I did not understand a single word, did not understand anything. And then I'm like, I'm gonna flunk this. let me just go back and get another language. So I took an additional subject as English literature instead of French, but I regret it somewhat now. If I had stuck with it, probably I could speak a few words at least. But here I am. Maybe someday.
It's always a humbling experience. I think that's how I see it. When I started, actually, they put me a year ahead because they're like, your mom's French. She's gonna help you with your homework. She never helped me with my homework. I think she helped me once. So like the first days I was there, I was sitting in class like, I do not know what people are saying. And then because I was just translating from Italian at a certain point, and I think because of Italian and Spanish, these things help. These languages help. Not per se with French though. It kind of helped me in the wrong way because I didn't know how to say with in French. So I just translated from Italian, which is con. And that's a bad word in French. And so I was writing like con everywhere. It was like con everywhere. And my French teacher was like, Chiara, I need a word with you. It's like, why are you writing all these bad words? I'm like, I promise you, I'm just translating. I don't know. She's like, it's avec. So
That's so
you do learn a
interesting.
lot. You do
Yeah.
learn a lot. And then, one day we actually learned bad words in class. And she was like, okay, so today we're going to learn bad words, expecting that nobody knows the bad words. And that day, I really raised my hand all the time. I was always like kind of the one who listens and observes in class. But that day I was not. I was very participating. I was
I
participating a
would
lot.
love to attend that class.
Yeah, and she had to again get me out of the class. She's like, Kid, I need to have a word with you. How do you know all these bad words? I was like, my mom driving.
Amazing.
So
I
yeah.
would really love to attend that class more than any other class.
But it's a beautiful class. The only thing is when you learn a language, you just have to kind of pretend to be a kid again. Then the pronunciation, you just need a native speaker who just sits next to you and makes you repeat the things 15,000 times until you somewhat sound not too much like an outsider.
Absolutely. I learned Marathi that way. It was kind of like just by hearing. I still don't speak the language. I can understand it completely, but I try not to make too many errors. But honestly, today I feel I mix up a lot of languages. Like I speak English, Hindi, Bengali, and Marathi. And I, even just in these few languages, I feel like kind of mix them up. And then I'm like thinking, what is the word for this? Google Translator,
But
of course.
it's also crazy that in India, there's how many official languages? 22,
100.
right? There's a lot of just, that's just the official one, I think. And then, of course, it doesn't
There are
end there.
hundreds
There's
of
an
languages.
there's a lot of languages. Already just living in India, I mean, I don't know a word in Marathi. Nothing. I only learned Hindi because at least Hindi, I know if I am lost, somebody will know Hindi to a certain extent. But that's the only one I know of like what, 10 words.
That's impressive.
It helps to be there. I think that's the most important thing. If I never went to India, I would have, well, besides not meeting you, I would have not learned anything about the culture and the language and why they have certain pronunciations and all that. Like, I wouldn't have learned anything. So for me, once again, what I said in the beginning, being uncomfortable is the first thing that you have to do for yourself because that's when you start really learning and growing yourself out of your norm. So, what your normal everyday life was and everything. And even in Brazil, I didn't know a word of Portuguese when I lived there, when I arrived. And I only did Portuguese lessons for 2 months, once a week. And that was enough. I mean, I was lucky I knew Italian and Spanish. It helped me understand which words to take from Italian, which words to take from Spanish, and which words to memorize in Portuguese. And that's how I learned the language. And then the rest was just Ubers. Ubers. I was hours in the Uber. And Brazilians love talking. So at a certain point, you just spark a conversation. Sometimes the traffic is too bad. So you say, hey, let's have a meal and just wait for the traffic to go. And you do all these things. So yeah, it gets creative and it's fun. And that's how I learned Portuguese. And then working there. The working there was even more because there I needed to actually know the words.
So when you talk about working this, what were you doing in Brazil? And before that, you mentioned the corporate experience.
So in Brazil, actually, I went there as for an, oh my God, I'm saying in Portuguese, intercâmbio, exchange. I went on exchange in Brazil from the university I was in Amsterdam. So I was studying my first master's in international business. Then I moved there because I wanted everything that was the opposite of the Netherlands. So sun, which we didn't get much sun in Sao Paulo. And I just wanted a culture that's completely different, everything. Actually, when I was going there, I was getting my visa done and they wrote that I was going for marriage. Visa for marriage. I was like, no, I'm going as a student. And they're like, no, no, visa for marriage. I'm like,
Wow,
please give me a student visa. Luckily, it worked, but it
that's
took me some
great.
time to get that fixed. So I got a visa for 1 year. And I said, how can I maximize the time that I have here? So I did my exchange, which was 4 months. Then I traveled around South America for 2 months. And then I started working. And I was just an intern for a German company, which I ended up working in Germany for forklifts.
Okay, wow.
But forklifts was really cool because you get to really work in so many different industries. So you get like a panel view of how does the business of makeup, of companies for makeup, companies for food, companies for automotives, like everything. And since forklifts are sold everywhere, you just get to visit all the different clients and see how the business works. And for me, having studied international business and entering the world of opening a business, that was really an eye-opening experience for me, especially from the side of Brazil.
What was your experience like, and what made you to move into opening a business from being a corporate employee?
I think one thing a lot of people can say is the word freedom. You have a lot more freedom in your own time. I'm somebody who prioritizes my family a lot, but also my friendships, people that are close to me. And what I felt like with corporate was I can't be there in certain parts of their lives. And I just want to have that freedom to be around the people that I care about at the time that I want to be there. And I always lived my life very free. I've traveled to 50 different countries and I've been able to study and work from everywhere and meet a lot of people from completely different backgrounds. I think I just learned to choose for myself in that moment. And I realized I want to open my own company. It's going to happen. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am
And
absolutely sure about that.
yeah, and with corporate, it was a lot of staying in one place for me. And I noticed maybe I'm not happy staying always in one place. I like to be free to know I can go somewhere and learn something new and continue being uncomfortable and learning exponentially and taking myself out of just my own everyday life. And even in Mumbai, I remember like one day we just went on a motorcycle ride around to Nashik. Just do something that's not always the same things.
I just wanted to ask you about your travel experiences. Anything scary ever happened?
Yeah, a lot of things. I would say I've been very lucky with my travels because overall I'm always in one piece, of course, knock on wood. And I've learned a lot. So the travels have been extremely enriching. I don't put so many restrictions. Like I will sleep in many different places. I will be very open to being around people and just learning. The best travels for me are always when I know somebody locally and they show me around. I try to do the same, of course, when people come visit me in Milan or wherever I am in the world. I try to give them the experience of all the things I've learned from the people around me who are also locals and what they do. And it's just the connections of people. But have I ever been in dangerous situations? I have. And sometimes I have to say ignorance is bliss. It really is. So when I first moved to Brazil, I didn't know Portuguese back then. And we were swimming in a river. And I was just swimming, going here, going there in this river. And everyone was like in a straight line. And I was like, la da da, going left and right. Sometimes losing them, swimming back to them. And suddenly the tour, like the guide, yelled at me. He's like, Sukuri, Sukuri. And I was like, Sukuri. I don't know what this word means in Portuguese, but I guess translating it, the closest thing I can assimilate it to is sicuro, which in Italian means safe. So we're good. Only to
What
know at the end of this whole thing, the guy was like, I yelled at you, sucuri, sucuri. I'm like, what does sucuri mean? He's like, anaconda. I'm like, what?
my God.
An anaconda swam 1 meter away from me. And the river, I found out months later, was called Hiu Sukuri, like River Anaconda, because it's known for having anacondas.
It's a good thing you didn't know.
It's a good thing. Ignorance is bliss.
Wow. Oh, I'm
But
glad
there
you
have
are
been,
safe.
yeah, and there have been a lot of times also in Brazil where when I was traveling, I maybe booked places in unsafe areas because they were cheaper. And I would leave the house, then, get an Uber back to my place, and they'd be like, I can't drive you there. It's too dangerous. And I'm like, so I always have to figure out last minute what to do. And sometimes I actually slept at other people's houses because it was nights. If they tell me it's dangerous, I'm not going to sleep there myself either. I'm just going to trust what they tell me and find a solution around it. So I would always contact somebody else or somebody that knows somebody who can help me out in that moment. And I feel like actually for Europeans, we always associate being in the center of a city as a safe place. That's not the case
Not
in Brazil.
always. Not
No.
always.
And we all learned it the hard way, all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I totally understand that. I've traveled a lot in India, being an Indian, and I've traveled alone. So when women travel alone, they have to be extra careful of various different things. We have to be aware of what is safe, what is not, be aware which city you can, roam around till 12 o'clock in the night, like Mumbai, or which city you can't do that, like Delhi. So you have to be a little careful and aware of how situations are. But I feel Europe in general is very safe. Like, never had to really think about whether I can go out at night or not that much. I did travel to Switzerland alone, and it was very, very,
It's
very
very
safe.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Switzerland is like the safest it can be, basically. In Switzerland, I always, when I can, not always, always, but sometimes I also would just walk back home at night and whatever. And just knowing that you can do that is so, so nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's sad that for us, we always have to think about this as well. It always makes me angry, actually, when I travel. And I always have to think about how I go outside, how do I look, because I never want to show too much. I always want to just be covered and not care.
That's so
Yeah,
sad, isn't it? It feels like
exactly.
it fills me up with anger, but you have to be aware of your surrounding. You can't do anything about that,
Yeah.
at
One
least in
thing I
this world.
also, yeah, in Delhi, it has happened to me that you always have to kind of have an eye out. So I had a very smart idea. I had a sweater of a guy, and then I just put it over my head. Motorcycle hat, like, helmet. Nobody knows.
Perfect.
So I was like, okay, like this, at this point, we're fine. But no, it's really, you have to, I've been very creative with these situations also because when I land in a certain country and it's like 12 or 2 in the morning, it's happened to me a lot of times. And I've had to find a way to get to the city alone. I am very strict in those moments with the taxi drivers I end up with or the people that are around me. And I think one thing that helped me a lot was also, once again, Brazil, because you always kind of need to keep an eye out. And Brazil really helped me because you have to learn to just pretend to know where you are, even if you're lost. Because if they know you're lost, immediately you're a target. Already as a woman, technically you're a call it a target, which sucks to say, and I hate saying this. However, if you're very confident and you know exactly where you're doing, where you're going and everything, that helped me a lot in Brazil. And if you're walking alone, walk close to a group. Just all these tactics that I learned from people, everybody there. It's not just men or women, it's everybody. They tell you these are the things you need to know. And to this day, I apply the same things. And in general, you can always find a kind person. So for me, that's what helped me in my travels. I arrived to a city in Brazil called Natal, which is in the north of Brazil. And My friend didn't make it on the flight, so I was alone and I had to go to the Airbnb alone. And I was landing at like 2 in the morning, midnight. And it's a city I do not know. And found out much later it's not very safe, but it's a very cool city. I mean, the beaches are nice. There's a lot of cool activities to do. And next to me was a lady who had a child, a baby, and the baby wanted to play with me. So she's like, "Ah, do you mind?" I'm like, "I don't mind. Just give me the kid. I'll keep the kid entertained while you chill." And she thanked me after. And then she also told me how to get home. She helped me with the whole process because, like, to my Airbnb. And I felt much calmer because it's a woman next to me who has a baby who can help me out. And then she also invited me to her home, which was very cool. We had a very fun time. We still keep in contact.
I mean, I love meeting people from different places, and they are the ones they give you these tiny little, I would say, ideas or idea about the local travel. So when I was on my honeymoon in Thailand, and they gave us such basic ideas, like there is this thing called tuk tuk, a local thing that people
Like the
travel in.
elbow, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there they said that don't ask the price, just go and sit on it, and just while getting down, give them 10 baht. When we asked the price just to check, and they told us about 100 baht or something, and then we went the next one, and we paid them 10 baht, and that was it. Such amazing tips just from talking to the locals, and I feel that is the kind of experiences that helps us to see the world from a different glasses.
Yeah. What also I do a lot is I try to learn like a few basic words here and there. So it doesn't sound like I just landed in the country.
Absolutely, that helps. And that is
And
where the
that
10
helps.
Hindi words comes in, isn't it?
It's mostly for coconut water because I love coconuts.
Me
Ik
too.
नारियल
I love
पानी कितने का एक नारियल पानी एक नारियल पानी कितने का है my
that
favorite
was
thing to
in
say.
Mumbai.
Yes, but also in general traveling.
So where all did you go in the rest
Uh,
of India?
India, I would have to come back and do a lot more because it's only the beginning. But I did from Mumbai all the way down to Bangalore, basically by any modes of transport possible, except motorcycle and boat for now. But we went from Mumbai, we took a night train to Goa. Then we stayed in Goa a few days, which was beautiful. And I loved South Goa. South Goa,
It's amazing,
beautiful,
yeah.
amazing. And then there we went to Mangalore and Mangalore to Mysore, where we went to see, try the coffee in Kur and Bangalore. And then I did another trip towards the north. So Varanasi. So that was actually after the meditation. I went to Varanasi and then from there to Delhi just for a few hours just to get to motorbike. And then we did a motorbike trip in Uttarakhand.
Wow.
Uttarakhand. And that was very intense. 5-6 hours per day sitting on a motorbike. I could not move. I could not walk.
I
And
can totally imagine.
oh yeah. And we actually got stranded in a hike as well, which was really fun.
That cannot really be fun.
It's we were laughing about it and always saying we will laugh about it in hindsight, you know? We just need time to go and then we'll laugh about it. Like, oh, we survived this. But yeah, it started raining and then from rain suddenly it was hail and then snow and it was 25 degrees. It was beautiful weather during the whole hike. Luckily we went already to the peak and then we were coming back down and then suddenly the weather changed. Out of the blue, I lost the sensation of my fingers. So we found like a little place that made, of course, chai and Maggi, and we've had plenty of Maggis and chai the whole time. And they were warming up water, so I was like warming up my hands, just trying to get the sensations back. And then after 2 hours of staying there, I was like, the sun's starting to go down, so we need to find a place to sleep. So we were kind of sliding down the mountain at that point. My shoes, luckily, were good. They were not hiking shoes, but they were amazing shoes for everything. And they ended up saving the both of us because I never fell. I slipped, but I never fell. And there were so many ladies walking down in slippers. Slippers. They were
Seriously?
falling everywhere. So every time we were trying to go very fast because we needed to get there before everybody else to find a room. Because when we got down, there were no rooms. So we had to really like run. It was not chill. But then we made it down.
And you found a place to sleep, right?
And we found a place to sleep. It just had no hot water, just freezing cold water.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was a bit less fun. And we were already freezing cold and like our shoes were drenched. But it was beautiful. And it was like maybe a 30-degree temperature difference between those 2 days.
Your
Just
body
because we
must be
got,
wondering what is happening with Chiara.
yeah. Yeah. Usually when I come back from all my travels, I just go home and do nothing for a while because my body is like, and then after a while it does nothing. It's like, I have to do something with my life.
Absolutely. I love all these travel stories. When it is happening, it's so intense and it feels like this is the last time I do this kind of thing. And then I have to go back there and I have to do it again.
What am I doing being so calm again? Something's missing. That's usually how I feel. After a few days, I'm always thinking, okay, I need to do something again. So that's why I think opening a company maybe is the next challenge for me to do. I think the energy should go towards making something of my own that makes me happy in my career as well. Because after traveling
Absolutely.
50 countries, it's hard to find a job that continues giving you that life.
Absolutely. And 50
So
countries
you have to
is
do it yourself.
something. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's gonna go more and more. I mean, I wanted to do 50 countries by the age of 25. Then I made it at 26. But it just happened naturally. I didn't put any pressure on myself. I don't plan trips just to have that extra country. It's more like if an opportunity comes, I'll usually take it. But there have been, of course, times where I couldn't. I couldn't go. But yeah, that's usually the case. It matters a lot with who you go with, what you do, how you're feeling emotionally in that moment, because there have also been some trips where maybe I wasn't doing the best emotionally, and that I noticed afterwards, okay, that's something I need to work on myself too. Because it's also a way to learn about yourself, traveling. It's really just learning about yourself in the hardest way possible. And then you realize I can do a lot of things. I can do more things than I thought I could. And then suddenly the confidence comes up and you're like, okay, if I move to Brazil alone, I can definitely open a company. Somehow it's going to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Somehow, yeah, you go and then the opportunities come to you. But if you don't put yourself out there, nothing comes to you. So you always have to put yourself in that uncomfortable position of putting yourself out there, and then the opportunities come to you as time goes on.
Absolutely. And I honestly feel that when we have not the confidence to travel, or not just to travel, to confidence for anything, kind of takes a hit. But when you're traveling alone and you can manage all the logistics and all the problems and everything alone, and then you're like, if I can do that, what's the next challenge? I can just take it on. And that self confidence is absolutely something else, isn't it?
And it really matters because at the end of the day, you notice that the life that you also had, because I always think of that. There's people who never left the life that I've known them in a specific place. They've never gone out of that specific place. And the fact that I'm always considered the one who's always outside and doing things, then I notice actually I'm really happy with this life because it has taught me so much. And sometimes I have conversations with friends of mine who stress about things that I used to stress about when I was 15, but I have clearly over just passed that years ago and they still haven't. And that's just because they haven't gone out of their comfort zone. And it's easy to stay in your comfort zone. It's very hard to get out of your comfort zone. The people who travel are very few. To be able to travel, you have to be very lucky as well. I think I was reading a stat about India that only 3% of Indians have been outside of India. And
I
actually, even 20% of the world population has traveled with like on a plane. So when you're traveling, you're part of the niche of the niche of the niche. A woman traveling alone on a plane, 20% of people fly as a woman alone.
We are absolutely at the top. In fact, I knew I was kind of a rare breed because in India, I was traveling alone for the first time at the age of 17. And that's kind of unheard of. People generally, specifically, don't travel alone a lot. Even if they do, they well into their mid 20s at least. I I didn't even realize that it was something unique or different that I was doing. It was a necessity. I had to travel. I traveled alone. And then I love traveling, so I kept traveling. Travel across India alone, outside. And then, of course, once you have a partner, then it becomes like easier,
Chill.
I would say.
More chill. It does make things a lot easier. That's true.
Tell me one more thing, Chiara. This thing we were talking about, that the earlier version of Chiara 5 years ago and today, what is the difference that you see?
Huge difference. So I'm 27. Chiara, at the age of 22, still didn't go to Brazil. It's like she was getting her visa ready to go to Brazil or thinking about it. The last 5 years have been really formative for me. I think in those 5 years was the time I traveled to 30 countries, just those 5 years. I got to meet so many people. I've done a year where I traveled to 4 different continents, but at the same time, I learned a lot about who I was. Those were the really what I did in those 5 years. In my upbringing, I always helped others, dedicated my time to others, and I didn't really know who I was. I just knew what others expected of me and gave them exactly what they wanted. And that's why I went to Brazil. I wanted to cut ties with my past self and really start new, fresh. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows my past. Nobody knows my story. Do people like me as who I am? Was even just a question. Am I a cool person? I don't know. So then I went to Brazil and I started completely from scratch. Nobody knew me. And I have friends that are still my best friends today. And so that was already a huge thing that I didn't even know about myself 5 years ago. I did so many years of studying as well, which now that I think of it, I'm really happy that I sat down and studied and put myself out there in all these different cultures, especially having done international business. I feel like I'm only at the beginning, but I have a base sense of knowledge of how business works around the world between US, Europe, Brazil, to a certain extent, South America. Asia, still not much because it's mostly India centered and it's only been 3 months I was there. So it's extremely basic there too. But at least I have a lot of places, even Tunisia, like where I've learned and assimilated how the culture is there, how business works there, how what they eat even shows how business works, how they eat, how they talk, everything. And just because I put myself there and I just sat down and observed and learned. So now it's the time of Chiara now is to apply the learnings. But I feel like those 5 years were very formative for me to sit down and just gain a lot of knowledge. Like I never really sat down and did nothing. I think I can count them in just a few weeks in my life where I just sat down and did nothing, meaning I just stayed home and relaxed just to catch up from all the
And I
intensity of
think that
everything
is
else.
also absolutely important, isn't it? And I feel one thing I would mention here, that when we talk about a business and we always talk about business strategies, but we always skip out the most important part, people. Every business, the base is people. And that is where I feel you will excel at, because you have this amazing way of connecting with people and various different countries, various different cultures, and you still find your way around and find people, meet different kind of people, which is something I also love to do. At the end of the day, it's all about people and how we connect with them.
And to
That's something.
know who the people are in your life as well. I mean, every connection is important, but every connection has a purpose. So, friends, learning, everybody's a teacher in your life, you know? And some people come into your life to teach you things you didn't know about yourself in some stage of your life. And I really believe in that. There's people who come into your life who teach you, and maybe you're also that person who teaches other people. Who knows? I feel like also in the meditation, I learned everybody's just trying their best and they just show it in different ways. So at the end of the day, it's just being calm, trying, failing, learning, and then kind of continuing that cycle.
Was there a moment when you realized that your life might look different from what the society expected?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, definitely. A specific moment, I would say no. It comes everything in hindsight. So now I notice in some specific moments from my past, the actions that I took were different from others. I was always somebody who loved learning, but never the best in class. So I always had to find a way to be different, let's put it that way, from the rest. Because if I competed with the pool around me, like the people around me, I was not going to do well in a lot of things. So I needed to find a way to be different. That's where the traveling came in, because the traveling allowed me to learn so much. And I'm a person who learns by doing. I have to be there, I have to try, I have to learn and fail, and then I learn an exponential amount. But I have to allow myself to fail before I do something, because if not, there's no point. And in school, it wasn't really like that. It was like, if you're not like everybody else, you're just not good. But this is the way I noticed I was different. I was questioning a lot of different things than others. And I was genuinely very, very curious. I want to learn everything. A lot of things excite me. Like, I still want to do so many different things. It's just, I can't stay still. Staying still for one day, I'm like, okay, what am I doing next with my life? I created the fact that I have roots everywhere, that the curiosity is everywhere, that I want to try everything. And there's no real, like, stability around it at the moment. It's just try. You're in your 20s. Your 20s are to just do, try, fail, learn. That's what I believe in. Experience. Just take it in. And especially being a woman, when I was studying in Mumbai, it was very common. Like, it was the first time I heard some women there saying, these are like the 2 years I have to myself, is when they were doing their MBA. And I was like, enjoy those 2 years, because those are 2 years for yourself. Not everybody has that. And I've been lucky. I've had like 9 years completely to myself. Like, since I was 18, I was already living alone. And my sister, even 16, I was already late in the family. So since I was 16, I've always been living alone, doing things in my own terms. And I'm so grateful that I did that and that I stick to that. Now I'm more chill and flexible with things. But when I was younger, I'm happy that I stick to taking care of myself and doing things that made me happy, and really taking the time to learn about myself before committing into anything.
I totally am with you on that, because I was 17 when I moved out of home, and I feel it was an amazing experience, because when you start taking care of yourself and you start putting yourself first, and you start loving yourself in a different way, because then that becomes priority. You have to take care of yourself, right? And a lot of people don't really get that. They are still
better.
Yeah.
And better people come in your life.
Absolutely, because you choose. You absolutely choose who comes, who stays, who doesn't. That's your choice. This reminds me
of the talk that we had in Vipassana that evening. We were discussing, what does it mean to love yourself, right? And I think one of the conclusions we had is knowing when to say no. Because you're at such a level of comfort with yourself that you just say no more easily. Not like, oh no, that's it. No, but like, if somebody asks you something that you're just kind of thinking, no, you can just say it, and you don't mind saying it. You don't have repercussions. Like, you don't have the things in your head saying, oh, you should have just said yes and been kind. No, just say no. I don't care. And knowing when to say it.
That always, you don't have to say yes just to please others. And we are all people pleasers, all of us, all around the world, In the beginning, I felt that it is very Indian culture, that we try to be more people pleasers, more about the society. But as I met people from different parts of the world and traveled around different places, and I realized it's worldwide. We find it very difficult to say no to someone without giving hundreds of justification and that this is the
And not
reason.
sounding rude. When I think about it as well, the Netherlands really helped me with that. Because in the Netherlands, people are very direct. And what I also like is if the person doesn't like you, you'll know that that person doesn't like you. They'll just tell you blatantly. They'll be like, hey, I don't really like you. You don't have to be likable to everybody. Some people don't like you, and that's fine. Do I like myself though? Yes, that's what matters.
Absolutely. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, anyways. I'm a glass of wine. One last question for you. Who were you before the world started telling you who you should be?
Well, people pleaser to start with.
We all.
Yeah, I think the trying to be a perfect child in terms of whatever people were expected of me, I just did as it was expected. I was scared. I was scared. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So every day I would wake up, oh, today I want to be a journalist, or today I want to be a diplomat. Or I think as a kid it was diplomat and mechanical engineer. Every day I would wake up and think of something new. I also didn't think I was good enough back then. Really, my confidence, I think, was a big issue when I was younger. And it really changed a lot just because I made myself uncomfortable to be able to learn and get out of that systematic feeling not confident. After a while, also, when I was younger, I listened a lot to people. Now I listen to the people who give me proper advice. If the person isn't qualified enough to give me advice for something that I'm asking or want to know, you're not going to get my full attention. And if it's because of opinions or what they hear about from other people that, again, are not also qualified, I'm not listening. If I had listened to everybody who told me not to go to Brazil, I would have not gone. And then I would have not been the person that I am today. So Brazil was a very pivotal moment for me because people told me not to go. I am so happy I didn't listen to people because I really learned so much and I'm not the person that I used to be. And I'm so happy that I'm not the person that I used to be. I'm really happy that I grew. And now I'm applying more things in my growth, things that I still want to learn about myself. I feel like if you really want to, you can change. It doesn't require much. It's really a mentality thing. You have to know how to just get out of your comfort zone.
I honestly feel that people give advice from their own experiences and perspectives. So if people are stuck in a place, they will not ever have the courage to do the kind of things that you have done, like move to Brazil or even come to India for 3 months. They would never have the courage to do it. So they don't have the courage, they will always tell you, don't do that. That's too scary. I always
Actually,
just not listen to them.
when I was going to Mumbai, people were telling me, "Oh, it's going to be so dangerous as a woman," and Mumbai ended up being the safest city in India for being a woman. I was like, "Guys, how did you not know?" Now I tell them Mumbai is the safest city to travel to as a woman. You'll be fine. And they're like, "Really? I thought all of India is dangerous." I'm like, "No." Just because I went there and the locals told me, then I learned. But again, if people come to Italy, I'm gonna tell them also the things that we need to know. Like, you're not gonna eat the risotto in the south of Italy. It's just not their specialty and it's not their thing. Eat it in the north. That's where it's from.
So I have
Chicken
to
on
get in touch
pasta does
with you
not
about
exist
that.
in Italy.
Yes, I've heard that. That is so sad though.
Just not.
That's one of my favorite
It
things
will.
ever.
We eat it separately. We'll have the pasta and then we'll have the chicken after, but we don't put the things together. Pasta and chicken don't go together.
And I feel Italians love food, just like Indians love food. That's something common between the two
Yeah.
cultures.
We just love eating. We love food. I would say the biggest difference between Indian and Italian culture is that Italian culture is very simple in the things that we make. But then it's very hard to make things simple. So the tastes really come from the quality of the ingredients. In India, everything is much more aromatic. There's a lot more spices. It's so good. When it's like nicely aromatic, I'm like, wow. I am I I am like there's like the ratatouille moment of in the film with the little fireworks that was me eating in India.
I miss the food of India, honestly. That's the thing that I miss the most.
Me too. And I miss just nariyal pani. I miss going outside and having my nariyal pani with malai.
That was an amazing discussion, Kiara. I loved your stories. Thank you so much for taking this time and having this wonderful conversation with me.